Hi, my beautiful friends. How are y'all? I hope everyone is having a wonderful day today. I wanted to say welcome to my channel, Tropical Empress in Spirit. My name is Amanda. Thank you for stopping by. I hope you're doing well today. To all my beautiful ladies and handsome gents, thank you. Today, I wanted to answer a question I got asked. I've been asked by several people, probably in the last, I don't know, I'll say roughly last, well, maybe about a year. And I've been meaning to answer this question, and I apologize to some of the ones out there who have asked me this question and I hadn't responded to it yet. But hopefully, I'll be able to answer this question for y'all today. And that question is, how do you go about giving yourself and going through the process of growing your psychic abilities? Like if you're, going through roadblocks, or what other suggestions or advice can I give, or what are my thoughts from like a medical perspective? Well, you know, just so it's clear, this is for entertainment purposes, and I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical professional of any kind. So, but I will address that question. um, but first, I want to share a story with y'all, and I know some of y'all love my stories, so I'll share a story with y'all, and then after the story, I'll get, into answering this question. Um, this may surprise a lot of y'all, and I hope it'll surprise y'all in a good way. If any of y'all watched one of my recent live shows I did this past week, you may have heard me mention something about I had almost died when I was a baby. I was 8 months old, in fact. I got sick with spinal meningitis, and I had a fever and everything. And my parents took me to the hospital, and the doctors evaluated me and said that I was pretty much on my deathbed, and told my parents that, it could either be fungal, viral, or bacterial. And they said if it's fungal or viral, I'm you might as well kiss me goodbye, I'm gone. If it's bacterial, they can treat it, but they might still be a little too late. And so they were telling my parents to prepare to let me go, and you can just imagine the heartache on my parents, just to hear that, with their baby. So my parents, did, and my mom said that there was all kinds of medical equipment in the room, helping me, to breathe and all these other aspects. And, they're crying their eyes out thinking I'm going to die. And I almost did die. It was that close. But thankfully, the doctors came back and told my parents that it was bacterial. And so they gave me the antibiotics, and I pulled through. But I didn't pull through without complications. So what the doctors and what my parents didn't know at the time was, because of the spinal meningitis, the bacterial meningitis, and because I nearly died because I was so sick that I would end up being um deaf, blind, or I would have brain damage. It would be one of those three. Well, after a few days of me being in the hospital, they realized I still had my hearing, so they said it's not my hearing. And they, tested me and, said it wasn't my eyesight either. I still had eyesight. So the doctors, after the neurologist had examined me, told my parents that I had brain damage. To what degree? They didn't know, and they said they wouldn't know until I got older to see what my brain function and the things I do and so on. So after some time had gone by, my parents started to notice that I would just go off in a blank stare. Like, you would think the way they describe it, it's like a deer in the headlights. And like I'd be spaced out of it, and they didn't understand why. So they took me to a doctor. Well, the doctor had came back and told them that I had seizures. In fact, I had grand mal seizures, a specific type called petit mal seizures. And so they said they had to start giving me anti-seizure medications to control the seizures and so on. Well, as time progressed, the medications all the doctors had put me on was not working, or it didn't seem like it was working, because despite all the different medications, and they put me on all kinds, they would try one and it didn't work, they'd put me on another one that didn't work, and the list goes on. So my parents, obviously are just frustrated with the doctor, and they're worried, they don't want to see me suffer, and watch me have a seizure, and then all the fears that come with seizures, for some people. But there's so many different kinds of seizures, you can't just put someone in the same box, as far as seizures go, because there's different kinds, and every kind of seizure will create a different type of symptom. So, like, I know people, when they think of seizures, they always talk about the grand mal seizures, the type where people will, collapse, and, they're afraid they're going to swallow their tongue, okay? I believe that seizure is real, but that wasn't the type I had. Even though I had grand mal seizures, it wasn't that kind. And so, as time progressed, though I was on medication, I was still having seizures a lot. But my parents didn't stop me from being a child. I still went to the park and rode a bike or a scooter or played on the playground. I was even bowling. I've been bowling since I was in diapers, as my parents said. So they allowed me to still live a full life, in my childhood back then. But obviously, there were still little precautions, in case I had a bad seizure or whatever. And I do recall there was a time that I was at, I believe I was in pre-K. It was some kind of daycare, I think. And I remember standing on the playground on the cement, and suddenly, I just, like, I don't know, like, I fainted, but I knew I didn't faint, but that's what it was like. And I remember I fell, and I thought my head hit the ground. Well, someone caught me, thankfully, and my head didn't hit that ground, because if it had, God only knows, how it would have turned out. So, over this went on for about the first 10 years of my life, where I was going to my neurologist. I think I even went through a few different neurologists, and they all came back with the same thing. Well, we got to change her medication. Well, we got to try this medication, try that medication, and so on. And my parents were like, no, this is not helping her. There's got to be another way to fix this. So when my parents, divorced, and they divorced when I was like 3 years old, um, my dad initially got custody of us, but then something happened in the family to where the custody of me was transferred to my mom. So I went and lived with my mom and my stepdad for a couple years before they moved us to Georgia. So I was about, I think it was, wait, yeah, I was 10 when we moved here. And so my parents obviously, had to find new doctors. Well, they were also told there were some great pediatric doctors here in my state, in Georgia. And so they, felt better that maybe they would find me the right doctor that can help me, that would be able to do something. So my parents took me to my first appointment with the new surgeon, or not surgeon, the new neurologist here. And the neurologist, examined me and talked with me. And I even remember telling the doctor, I said, look, I can tell you when I have a seizure. I know when I have a seizure. I know it before it happens. And I told him, I said, I get this bad feeling in my stomach like I'm in danger. Or you can even describe it like the feeling of doom. I would feel that way. I remember there were times that when I was at home, or even if I was at the bowling alley, I would get that fear to where I would feel the need to go run into my bedroom and pull the covers over me and lay down. It scared me. And when I'd be at the bowling alley, I would go and lay underneath the tables, the counters that was behind the lanes where people would sit at and talk and eat, while people were on the actual lanes bowling. I would lay under there. So, my doctor said, well, that's interesting. And it was good that I was in tune with myself, my body, and I understood, those things of what would happen. And so he told my parents and he told me, he's like, I think we can help her. I think there's something we can do for her. And that doesn't require putting her on a different medication or anything like that. He's like, but I need you to go see one of my colleagues and allow my colleague to examine her and, you know, go from there. And so my doctor asked, well, who's your colleague? And he's like, oh, he's another neurologist. And my parents were like, okay, you know. So they take me to my appointment to the second neurologist. And what my parents didn't know at the time was this neurologist is a surgeon. And the surgeon told me and my parents that he felt he could help me, but it would require doing something that they would not like or not be comfortable with. And that meant that I would have to have brain surgery. And of course, my parents, scared to death, like, no, you're not going to do this to my child, and so on, which I understood their fears. And, so the doctor told them, though, and they gave, he gave them a dose of reality and told my parents, we can help her to the point that it might limit her seizures to, she only may have it 10% of the time, compared to what she's going through right now. Well, 10% is a huge decrease in my seizures compared to what I was having them. And I was having them a lot, throughout the day. And some major ones to the point that I would have to go to the hospital for them to bring me out of the seizure. It was that bad. So the doctor, told my parents if they didn't go through and agree for me to have this surgery, that the life I had wouldn't be a life, that I wouldn't be able to get a driver's license, I would never be able to have an actual job, nor would I, could they see me getting married or, having a family because of my seizures and all the difficulties it would present for a spouse, and what spouse, would want to take on something like that if I'm having seizures that much and they can't be there to take care of me because obviously they would have to go to work in order to support us unless, they were filthy rich or something, so he gave them that reality. And so my parents said, okay, well, we're going to have to think about this and we'll come back. And I already knew then that my, doctor won my parents over. And so, we went back to the appointment the next time, and my parents told them that, okay, that they'll agree to this, but they want to know what all involved. Well, the surgeon told my parents that I would have to spend a whole summer in the hospital because they would need to put me in a room to where they can monitor me 24/7 and do all these different tests, testing my brain, and also having a video camera that would record me 24/7 so they can see for themselves what was happening to me when I'd have a seizure and how often and so on. So I spent my first summer in a hospital, after I moved here. And you know truthfully, it didn't bother me. In fact, I had a lot of fun at the hospital because I could stay up as late as I wanted. I can eat all the ice cream I wanted. I mean, all the nurses loved me. If I hit that button at 3 o'clock in the morning and wanted some ice cream, I got ice cream. I was spoiled in that hospital. So, and I got to do arts and crafts and all these other things that kids were supposed to do. So it didn't feel like I was sick in a hospital like we all think. So, and after the tests were done, my surgeon came back and said, okay, that, they pinpointed the part of my brain that was causing all the seizures. Not only did they pinpoint the part of my brain that was causing the seizures, they told my parents that I had a benign tumor on my brain. And that was the direct cause of the spinal meningitis, which is also what was causing my seizures. So they told my parents they had to go in and remove that tumor and part of my brain with it, and to, take it out of the category so it wouldn't keep causing my brain to misfire, which is what happens when you have a seizure. That's the cause, is your brain is constantly misfiring. So my parents said, okay, so the following year, that following summer, when I was 11, I went underneath the knife. And it was an 8.5 hour operation. And my parents, my mom especially, she cried her eyes out. I mean, yeah, she was scared about the surgery and something's gonna go wrong. But she also didn't like it because the doctor told her that they'd have to, shave my head in order to cut me open. And my mama didn't like that idea because I had long, beautiful hair. And the doctor's like, but her hair will grow back. And they only wanted to shave one side of my head where they were going to operate on. And my mom's like, no, if you're going to shave her head, you're going to shave it all off at the same time. So that way it all grows back evenly and so forth. And so they're like, okay. And before I was rode into the operating room that morning, I saw a look on my parents' face. Great concern, obviously. I could feel it from them too. But they were putting on a brave face. And I remember I told my parents, I said, I'm going to be just fine. Just wait and see. When I wake up after the surgery's over, I'm going to look at you and I'm going to be able to tell you I'm okay and I'm still here. And my mama, and my, daddy were crying and they're like, aren't you scared? I said, no, I'm not scared because I know I'm going to be just fine. Wait and see. I'll see you, this afternoon or evening when I wake up. And they kissed me goodbye. And I went into the operating room. And that evening, I woke up and I looked at my parents and I said, I'm still here. I'm okay. I made it. Everything's good, And they're, crying and happy and, you know, excited that I seemed to be okay at that point. And I was. I was perfectly fine. And so after about, I think it was about a month, maybe a little less, I was released from the hospital, go home, and I was doing fine. I wasn't having any kind of seizures that I could tell. And the doctors even told my parents that they would have to keep me on the medication for at least a year to see, how I would do and so forth. And so for a year, I was on the medication. I didn't have any seizures. No seizures that I was aware of. And even my doctors did tests to see when they would check for seizures, and nothing showed up. And my doctors told my parents I was cured. The seizures were gone. And there was no reason to keep me on medication anymore, not even for any kind of precaution, because they felt I was cured. And it turned out to be right. I was cured. I didn't have any more seizures. I didn't get that doom feeling in my stomach that told me I was fixing to have a seizure. I didn't have any of that. And as you can see, and I'm sure this probably surprised you, because I had a scar that looked, as my parents describe it, it looks like a question mark, just without the dot at the bottom of the question mark. But they said that's what my incision looked like. And I had staples and stitches in my head. And they put me through all these other tests afterwards, which is some of the same tests they did with me before. And they said my brain was fine, that there was nothing they could see that was wrong, the surgery didn't seem like it affected me. Like, they told my parents before that there was a small chance that my eyesight might get impaired, or it would also could possibly impair my imagination, like your creative side, and memory. Those were the three things I can remember. And the other one I think was also the speech. Beautiful people, it didn't affect any of those things. And what's even more crazy is that before the surgery, I remember my memory wasn't as good, obviously because of all the seizures. When you're having a seizure, you don't remember what happened during a seizure. You might remember right before, but during, I had no memory of what was happening during the seizure. And to where now I have a photographic memory where I remember pretty much everything. And so much so that my loved ones even relied on me for my memory to remember things for them. Even today, they do. And so, despite all that, going through that surgery, you would have thought it would change me. Well, yeah, it did change me, but it changed me for the better. I'm better. And I'm sure you're probably looking at me right now in disbelief that I'm missing part of my brain. But right now, yes, and y'all want to make the jokes about, I was dropped, on my head when I was a baby and I'm missing some, screws or whatever. I've said that too. It's funny. Yes, I'm missing a portion of my brain. If you were to look at my brain scan, it would look like, you think of like a thing of cheese. It would look like someone took, like a rat took a chunk of cheese out of my brain. That's kind of like what it looks like to me. But I'm fine. I live a full, happy, complete life. I can do everything that y'all can do. There's nothing that it affected in me. And I know that's amazing for a lot of people to hear, and they get blown away when they hear that. Because they would look at me right now after talking to me and everything, and would have never guessed that I'm missing a portion of my brain. But I am. I'm missing part of my right frontal lobe, is what the doctors had to remove. So now that my story, and that I'm doing well, and I thrived after that surgery, and I've been thriving since then. The questions I've gotten about has to do with the medical side of it, medications and so on. Like I said before, I'm not a doctor or any kind of medical professional, but based on my own personal experience going through that, I it's hard to say that your biology, your physical being, that that gets in the way of your psychic abilities, or developing them or growing them, getting them to strengthen and evolve. And I will answer it that I think it's a 50-50, because there are certain things that I do believe it does affect, and I'll explain why in a minute. But um for me, and knowing that I'm missing part of my brain, it's like, people talk about the third eye, which I hate that term, but, it's a common term that people use. I call it your psychic eye, and that's up here. And, you know, yeah, I believe in the psychic eye, but it's not like you gotta, you have a literally a third eye up there. It's just where, like, when you close your eyes and you picture something, it's using that portion of your brain. Now, from a spiritual sense, I don't believe like a lot of psychic abilities has anything to do with your physiology, the biology part of you, except for it's the thing you use to process information, like your brain or your senses, because another example I'll use is, and some of y'all I know watch this video, but some of y'all I don't think have yet. Has to do with telepathy. Okay, telepathy is one of those abilities that's mind-to-mind communication, but some people think it's brain. No, I don't believe it's the brain. It's coming from outside of your mind. It's like, when you think of like a spirit, like a ghost of a loved one, you don't see them, unless they decide to manifest into a full body apparition right in front of you. Other than that, you don't see them. but you know they're there because you can feel them, or you hear them, or you smell them, or even taste. Taste is another psychic ability where you can taste things that there's no source for. It's not like you got something in your mouth, but you can taste something. It's those things. So when, we talk about the medical part of it in that way, it's all spiritual. And we all know, or at least most of us have that belief that there's a heaven or an afterlife, and our soul is eternal. So that soul of us still goes on even after we leave this physical body we're currently in. And with that, that's where a lot of your psychic abilities come from. It's spirit speaking to you, giving you that information or telling you. And all you're using is your brain, your eyes, your hearing, all your, senses to process that information through. But do I think there's like, if you were to go through your brain and pinpoint what specific part of your brain psychic abilities runs through? No, I don't believe that. Other than, talking about where you can get some of that information in your psychic eye. But even that's still spiritual to me. I don't see it as an actual biology or physicality kind of thing. And now here's the other thing I'll say. With the, medical side of it and using your body, do I think there's certain health conditions or even medications that can interfere with your psychic abilities developing? Yes, I do believe that. And from my experience, I can also answer that yes. And how I know that is because back when, if y'all watch one of, my other videos, I mentioned about being in a bad car accident back in 2002, or no, 2003, correction, 2003. And I injured my back, and it took 4 years for the doctors to figure out what was wrong with me in order to fix me. Well, before they diagnosed me to fix me, for me to have surgery, I was put on all kinds of medications. And a lot of the medications made me drowsy to the point I couldn't function. Like, literally, I would be at I'd be up at night, and I would have taken some of my medication because some of it, was supposed to help me sleep because I was in so much pain. And I would take that medication, but I would stay awake. I wouldn't, go lay my head down. I was being stubborn. And then I would get all these cravings. And, like I could eat a whole quart of ice cream in a night. Or I can eat a whole bag of Hershey's Hugs in one night, but I would have no memory of it. My family even told me that when I would go through and like when I was eat ice cream, I would have the bowl in my lap or I'd have it in my hand and I'd start eating and then I'd do this. And then my finger would end up in my ice cream or whatever I was eating and they, get a laugh out of it. So when I was on those medications that made me drowsy, did that affect the information coming through my brain, my psychic abilities? Yes. And did it also affect my memory of remembering, if I would have, any kind of psychic experience, hearing spirit or any of my other abilities? Yes. It would affect that too. So I believe that there are some medications out there, the ones that make us drowsy. I think it only affects us because it makes us drowsy to where we don't retain the information of the experiences we're having while we're drowsy, and so that's kind of like when you're going to have to go through, if you're on any kind of medication that makes you drowsy like that, or, some people even have to take medication specifically to help them sleep at night. It's not that you're not experiencing your psychic abilities or having like dreams of loved ones or whatever it is. It's that your brain is not retaining it for you in like almost like a wake state. So that's when you gotta have to have a conversation. with your spirit guides, with your loved ones, even with God, if you believe, and say to them, I want to know what happened last night in my sleep. What were my dreams? Did one of my loved ones come visit me or whatever? Ask them for help. You know, that's something that all of us have to do. Even the ones like myself who don't take medications that, makes me drowsy to where I have to go to sleep or whatever. But I know that for some of us out there who have to take those medications, it does. It interferes with our memory. So when we wake up, we don't think we dreamed last night, but we did. We just have no recollection of it. So that's when you got to talk to your spirit team and say, bring some of that information through for me. Help me to remember so that I know what I dreamed about. And, I also think like I remember there were times that I wouldn't remember my dreams when I was on those medications. But then throughout the next day, I would know things that I couldn't have known. Like almost like deja vu. It's like I've already lived this. Like, why does this seem so familiar to me? Why it seems so familiar to you? It's like deja vu because in your sleep, you dreamed it, or spirit told you that, or one of your loved ones told you. That's why you've retained that memory subconsciously. It's just that now you've got to, go the extra mile to ask them for extra help. And you may have to meditate more to bring that information through. And even in a wake state, sometimes some of us still have to go through and go the extra step and meditate for longer periods of time, or try different types of meditations to help us. And one of the other biggest problems that is for any of us, no matter, what health conditions we got on going on with ourselves or anything we got going on in our personal life, is it's so hard to clear your head. It is the one of the biggest challenges that even I face sometimes, where I can't empty my brain, clear it of everything. Like, you don't want to sit there and, when you're trying to meditate and then suddenly you get a thought like, oh crap, I was supposed to call so and so, or wait, that bill is due next week, or tomorrow, none of that. You got to get all of it out. And it's one of the hardest things to do. It's one of the hardest things to get your brain to hush up so you can focus, to clear your head, and go through all those different types of meditations that, exist out there. And I would, implore you to go out there and ask everyone in our community or people in general who meditate, and, you find out they're also psychic. Ask them what meditations they do that helps them. Gain that knowledge. Don't just try one thing and keep trying the same thing. You got to pull all the things and bring it into your toolbox to be able to use. It's important. And when you go through, repetitive helps because you get a muscle memory, but it also every now and then our, biology needs something a little different to, kind of spice it up, for lack of a better word. And I think that's why other meditations are very helpful in that. Or even try listening to different types of music that's supposed to put you in that calm, meditative state. But like for me, um, I'll do, and I've mentioned this before in other videos. One of the things I do is it's just a simple breathing technique to where I go through to try and empty my head, quiet my mind, is I imagine, when I breathe in, excuse me, when I breathe in, I'm breathing in gold light. And that gold light is filling me up from head to toe. Okay, I gradually fill my body up with gold light. And every single time I exhale, I imagine that I'm exhaling black smoke. And that's all, the negativity, even the you know, health, conditions, whatever those are. I put it all in that black smoke and it gets released out of me to help clear me, kind of like a soul cleanse, you can say, is how I would describe it. And if you practice that, without doing any other meditations, just try practice that to help clear your mind and calm your thoughts down. That should help, and that should probably help push you a step forward. Um, or there's another thing that I like to do sometimes. I imagine myself in a place, a peaceful place, a favorite place of mine. So mine would be like being at the beach. My favorite beach, being by that water. And water is cleansing too. But I imagine myself being there and nobody else is there. It's just me. And I'm just sitting and, bathing in the sunlight, or I get in the water and I put myself there to focus, to help calm me and to kind of raise my vibration too, and to help me relax. So that way I can get more information when I'm trying to tune in to get, messages from spirit or whatever. And that seems to help me. And then I think like there's another one I was gonna say, something else gonna add to that. And now I just had a brain fart, I'm sorry. But I do think that if you can learn to control your thoughts and empty your mind, you're halfway there, baby. Okay? You got through half the battle, because that's half the battle in itself. Oh, another thing I like to do, I like to doodle or scribble. Because just by taking a piece of paper and just scribbling, like, I'm not saying you gotta focus on writing anything. Just take your pen and just start scribbling. If you want to make, little flowers, write your name, whatever, that's fine. But just the act of scribbling helps me to relax, and it also helps me to empty my mind of everything else. And when I do that, that helps to raise my vibration, empty my mind, and I get downloads when I do that. Um, there was another one I was going to say, and it slipped my mind again. Oh, jeez. I apologize. What was the other one I was going to tell y'all? Oh, when you go through, so say you're having trouble calming your mind. But we'll just say, for an example, say you can only do it for maybe 5 minutes. That's okay. 5 minutes a day, that's all you need. But for those 5 minutes, empty your mind. And when you empty it and you open that door after you do your protections, and please, beautiful people, protect yourself, protect your spiritual space to keep all negative, evil entities and spirits out. Okay, you don't want to open that door for them to come through. So after you do that, if you want to go through, set a timer or an alarm on your phone, and put it there for 5 minutes. And now close your eyes and tune in and tell your spirit team you want to talk to them and welcome them in and thank them for showing up. After you do that, go through and now say, Spirit, tell me something I need to know today. And I'm timing this for 5 minutes. So tell me. Tell me whatever I need to know right now in 5 minutes. And keep doing that and gradually increase it. If you get comfortable, you feel like you're making connection with spirit in that 5 minutes, as time progresses, increase the time. And if you put that into practice and give spirit at least 5 minutes of your time to quiet your mind, no interruptions, no nothing, you'll find that you'll connect. At least I have learned that, and others I've talked to have said the same thing. But just gradually go through it, and don't put any pressure on yourself either, because putting pressure on yourself will put a block up to where you will not get information or your gifts won't evolve or strengthen. So that's one of the other biggest obstacles I think so many of us do face is putting pressure on ourselves, putting those limits up that will restrict us. But then there's another thing I want to talk about that I think for some is going to be a problem, and it's just there's nothing you can do about it. And that is going through and how do I say this? Oh, geez. I apologize. I got too much clutter in my head right now. And I'm trying to remember to cover everything with y'all. What was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, I do believe, and based on what Spirit has told me, sometimes the universe or your spirit team will put those blocks up for you. Okay? And it's not, anything you can do. It's your spirit team, your spirit guides, the universe, however way you want to, categorize it as. They put those blocks up for specific reasons. Maybe you're not ready yet. Or maybe, sorry, maybe there's something else you got to do first. Maybe there's some kind of deeper healing you still got to go through, like shadow work. There's many different reasons why spirit will put a block up. And understand me, it's for your well-being and protection. And I know that's frustrating. I know that's not what you want to hear, beautiful people, and I'm sorry. But I'm being honest with y'all and giving y'all all the information that I can think of to share with y'all today. Because I'll give you an example of that, and it happened to me a couple years ago. My husband almost died. I had to take him to the hospital, and he was admitted, and he was put in ICU, and I just happened to notice after he was put in his room, like some of my abilities had shut down completely, like my empath ability specifically had shut down. Like it was so weird, and I couldn't understand. I'm like, what's wrong with me? What's going on here? And it was also, I guess, for my good though. And it was probably good for me, and I know it was the right thing to happen at that time because being in the hospital as empaths, we got all these sick people around us, plus the nurses. Sorry. Plus the nurses, the doctors. We have all these people around us that their, emotions we pick up on. So, in order, to be in that hospital for me, to be with my husband, to make sure he got the best care possible, that ability had to shut down for a little while for my own protection so I didn't get drained and so I can be a wife and look after my husband and make sure, the nurses and the doctors were doing their jobs. And, it bothered me, but at the time I couldn't really focus on it. But eventually, my empath ability came back. In fact, I had an experience just like, I don't know, probably in the last 6 months. Yeah, about last 6 months. And that's an experience I'll share another day. But just understand that my empath abilities did come back. And I got my first indication of it about 6 months ago. So I know through that time with my husband being so sick as he was to where he almost died twice, in fact, that I had to focus all my energy on him and also a little bit on myself, keeping me going. Plus, I needed rotator cuff surgery and so on, and the responsibilities, around the house, that we all have. So I think sometimes spirit, the universe, will interfere, I mean, and I know it's frustrating. I get that, but understand that there's a good reason behind it. So if you're struggling, if you're doing everything, I've said so far and meditating every day, multiple times a day, and you still feel like you're not making any progress, well, I think it's probably going to be one of a few things. It's going to be either you're putting too much pressure on yourself, and that's going to block you already, or there is some other medical condition going on to where you just have no memory and you're not able to process it, like taking medications to help you sleep or that makes you drowsy. That's always going to be a problem as long as you're taking those medications. And the other one, I just think that's spirit of the universe trying to protect you, or saying you're not ready yet, that there's something else you got to go through first, or something you got to heal from. Now, there's also the beliefs, some people believe that for some of us, we're not meant to be psychic, having all these different abilities, or having them at the, highest strength possible, because our life and our purpose is meant for something different. And I do believe that's true too for some people. That doesn't matter how much you want it or how hard you try, that it just won't happen. But does that mean you give up? No, beautiful. Beautiful people don't ever give up. If you want it bad enough, keep trying and keep talking to your spirit team and telling them to help you. Help you to bring in the resources, or what is it that you need to do in order to tear down that wall, tear down that block that's getting in your way from being able to develop your abilities more. Because I think it's good that we all have some type of psychic ability. And I think if more people out there have, stronger psychic abilities, like your skeptics, I think there would be more believers out there. And I also think that this world wouldn't be as a crazy place as it is and has been for some years now. So that's my perspective on it. That's some of the things that I faced, and even my medical side of it. And but I was able to break through some of those walls. But even for me, I noticed that even before I put, like, a ritual in place of protection and going, doing the breathing technique, the meditation that I, just mentioned a minute ago, my abilities would naturally advance and I didn't have to do anything. It just seemed like every year to 2 years, I would either get a new ability that would surface that I didn't have before, or two, my abilities I had already would grow. They would evolve in some way. And it would, some of it would scare me at times. And I also think that there are others out there who are psychic, but they're the latent psychics. They're the ones that just have to, work extra hard to open that door. And once they do, it's like a light switch. It just turns on. Or you even have the ones that who go through and have a near-death experience. And before they had that near-death experience, they weren't aware of having any kind of psychic abilities. But after having that near-death experience, now they suddenly have psychic gifts that they didn't have before. And I think a lot of that has to do with going up and meeting with spirit, up in, heaven or the afterlife. Because they now have a closer connection to spirit than someone like me or anyone else walk in who hasn't had a near death experience like that. Um, because they've already have that direct link. They've been there in heaven more recently than the rest of us. The only others that could be that so in tune like that are like your babies, your newborns. And they're, special too. They were in heaven more recently than the rest of us, naturally. And they do get a bigger team, or I won't say a bigger team, but it seems like they have more angels and guides around than the rest of us, because, they're a newborn, or a young baby, so they kind of need extra protection because they're still pure and innocent. But what ends up happening is they end up growing up like the rest of us had to go through and grow up. I know it's a shame. I wish we could all stay a baby or a child, but but anyways, we all grow up, and I think through those years when that child is growing up and they're experiencing their psychic abilities, even like me, at 6, 7 years old when I started seeing, spirit orbs and spirits and out of body experiences and all that crazy stuff. But good stuff. You know, Back then people would have told me, I'm crazy or no, that didn't happen. Hi, beautiful spirit. Sorry, I just saw a blue orb appear over here. Um, would have told me that no, that didn't happen, or that's just your imagination, or this and that. And because our environment and our society and the people closest to us have so much influence on us, that because we get told that, we block it all out because we're just thinking like, no, we don't want to be known as crazy, or we believe what we're told. And by doing that, that disconnects your direct link to spirit, and then you end up blocking it, and forgetting about it even until you go back and open that door again and say to spirit, please help me. I want to, I want my psychic abilities to open up, and tell them your reasons why. And if you're coming from a good place, a pure heart, and you have good intentions behind wanting those abilities, spirit will help you if you're meant to have it. If your purpose here is partly meant to have those abilities to be able to use them in this life, whatever, you feel, you need them for, whatever is necessary is going to be helpful to someone. So there's so many different angles to it. It's not like it's a one size fits all kind of thing. It's multi-layered, and it's gonna, every possibility or angle is gonna be different for everyone, because it's all gonna be based on, like I said, our purpose, and what it is we're going after, and all those different things. Like I've said before, at last count, I have, I think, like eight or nine different types of psychic abilities that I experience. Like sometimes I'll only experience one, but other times I'll have two or three that are going on at the same time that's giving me information. And they all, flow through me. It'll happen 1 minute and then it may stop, and then another ability will, give me whatever information, and then it stops. It kind of goes through that. It's kind of weird, but I understand it. Maybe others out there will understand what I'm talking about, but that's kind of like how it works for me. How I have all these different abilities, and but they're not, always working 24/7. I don't have them turned on like that, like a light switch, unless I really try and dive deep and meditate to connect to spirit. Then okay, it'll come through, but it still kind of runs the same way. But I'll have a much stronger connection when I am trying to really focus and tune in to spirit and use my psychic abilities to connect to spirit or talk to my loved ones, or whatever it is, whatever my reasons behind wanting to connect to them to get whatever information or help or guidance that it is I need at that time. So I just think it's going to be a lot different for each and every single one of you out there. But I ask you to be easy on yourself, be forgiving, have mercy on yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself, and don't put so much pressure on yourself if it's not going the way you want it to, or it's not happening as quickly as you want it to either. Because like I said, there might be a very good reason behind it, but don't give up on it either. I'm asking you not to give up. I don't want you to give up. I didn't make this video to say, oh, well, she said that, I got this block up, or blah, blah, so why even bother? Don't do that. That's not what I'm saying to you. I'm just giving you all the variables of all the possibilities that I know and that I've been told by spirit of why your abilities may not be developing the way you want them to, or at the speed you want them to, or the type of abilities you want. Because I know some people are very specific. Some people say, well, I want to be able to see a ghost, or I want to hear, a ghost talk to me. Yeah, that's all great, but spirit may not give that to you. You might have a gift of clairvoyance, which is clear seeing, where you're able to see spirits and spirit orbs like I do. But you may not be able to hear them, not in the way that you want to, like actually literally hear their voice speak to you. You know, does that mean you're not clairaudient, or does that mean you don't have the gift of clairaudience? No, because you can still have clairaudience, but it's just not going to be auditory. It might just be where you get like thoughts in your head, like telepathy, and but you recognize these thoughts are not your own. But you're having these thoughts and you can't make sense of why. That's a form of clairaudience. You know, clairaudience is different for everyone, and the same thing is like all the other abilities, because why? Each and every one of us is different. So the way we process information is different. Hi, beautiful spirit. I'm sorry. It's the way we process the information and our perspective, our knowledge, all the things that goes into when, we examine something or learn something or trying to make a decision. We take in information and make, that judgment call, whatever. So, you know, what I would also ask you not to do, don't compare yourself to others either. Okay? Don't, take someone like me and be like, well, she says, she experiences it this way and it happens that way and blah blah blah. So why am I not experiencing it like her? Don't do that to yourself either. I'm asking you not to do that. Because again, you might be experiencing it differently from me, and don't put that pressure on yourself like, whoa, why can't I be open like her, or blah, blah. Please don't do that. That's only gonna put a block up and restrict you or hold you back instead of being open and being thankful and being grateful for what it is you do have. And gratitude brings manifestation. So just keep your eye on the prize and focus and ask Spirit to help you. And you will be able to manifest it the way you want. And if it doesn't happen, don't give up and ask your spirit team why it's not happening and how else they can help assist you to get it to evolve and grow or happen to where you're more in control of it, or whatever your reasons are behind it. But I would ask you to go out there, do research, like I said, listen to other people. Don't just take my perspective and what I have to say about it. Listen to others too. That's important because they're going to have a different way or a different perspective, or they may even disagree with me, and that's okay. We're not going to agree with each other all the time either. Some people might even say I'm wrong. You know what? If I'm wrong to them, okay. I can be told I'm wrong and I can handle it, but I can only tell you based on my experience, my perspective, and, the knowledge I have. That's all I can share with y'all beautiful people. So, but, just do your research. There's so much information out there now. You can learning from other people or researching on the internet. There's so many different websites out there that exist that gives you a different perspective, a different way of how to do something. And psychic abilities is no different. And even psychic shielding, and please people, y'all keep hearing me say, protect yourself, protect your space. Psychic shielding. Please do psychic shielding. Google psychic shielding. Please protect yourself. And there will be different websites on there that will tell you what psychic shielding is, and there's many different types of those too. So please look into that. And there's other, crystals you can use that will help protect you. And there's also crystals that can help bring out some of your abilities. They do have crystals out there. There's many books out there. Everybody has their own opinion about what crystal does what. You know what? You can take some of that information in too, but just go to a store that sells crystals and pick up a crystal, whatever crystal calls to you, and just hold on to it and see what happens. Try it. Maybe, someone told you, well, it don't work to help, increase your psychic abilities or your intuition, whatever. Don't take their word for it. Their experience and the way they connect, it could be a lot different than what you're trying to do. If a crystal calls to you, pick it up. Don't be afraid to try something different. Do not be afraid to go outside the box. Okay? I don't think this is one of those things where you have to go specifically and stay in the box and go through all lines. Feel confident and free to go outside the box and explore. Explore, gain whatever knowledge you want to gain and feel you need, and others experience. I'm opening to listening to everyone. Even, with me, I'm still learning. I'm going to be a forever student of life and of learning. I'm a seeker of knowledge. I enjoy talking to other people. I enjoy listening to their experiences, their advice, wisdom, and knowledge. I take it all in. Okay? So, and I may not agree with, some things they say, but that's true for all of us. But I still appreciate listening to their perspective or the way they look at things or what it is they know. I do. And I enjoy just the interaction with others. So try and do those things and see if it helps. And just don't give up and keep going forward. Well, my beautiful people, I'm going to end it here. I can't believe I've been talking to y'all for over an hour now. But I hope this has been informative. I hope this helps you in some way. And I hope that you take something away from it and learn something that you didn't know before, never thought of or considered or whatever. So I hope it's been very informative for you, and I hope it's been uplifting too, to give you, the encouragement and the positivity you need to keep charging forward and go out there and chase it and manifest whatever it is that you want, because you are the magician of your life, and don't ever forget that. And if you like my content, like what I have to share, my stories, my readings, my energy, please consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell and select all so you'll know all the videos that get posted. You'll be notified when I do that. And please, share my content so that this message can reach others who need to hear it right now. And please leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts. Or, if there's something I haven't mentioned that y'all might think it's important. Or maybe you think I don't know. Don't be afraid to comment and let me know that. I read y'all's comments and I will respond to them as soon as possible. And so, I hope y'all have a beautiful day. I'm wishing y'all so much love. I'm sending all my love to y'all. Positive light for healing, just for comfort, for happiness, whatever it is, because I wish y'all all the happiness, all the joy, all the great blessings this life has to offer. You deserve it. And don't forget that. And the other thing, don't forget you're a beautiful soul. And yes, I believe you're beautiful. And my gents out there, okay? I won't call y'all beautiful, handsome gents, okay? I hope that works. Until next time, be good.